Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know. I am Steve Delisant, and I am joined by Heinz, the president of Cibao Meat Products. Heinz, thanks for being with us
Well,
today.
thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're excited to dive in a little bit about yourself, about the company, and be able to share with our listeners. So let's kick off. So, as the grandson of the founder, you definitely have a very unique perspective on the challenges and triumphs of running a family-owned business in today's competitive landscape, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, to be 55 years in the industry is just a great testament to ourselves and the company, but also the family, and its nature and what we've learned and the lessons that we've learned and we've learned together, right? So I think that really adds to where we are as a company now.
Absolutely. Congrats on the 55 years, too.
Thank you.
And as I know, it's probably always been a part of your life, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey at Cibao Meats and what really drove you into the family business?
Sure. Well, I was thinking about this on the way in because I know questions always come up about the history, and you're the third generation, so they want to know about the history. And I like to share a story. I mean, part of the story is my grandfather, obviously the founder, and some of my fondest memories. So as a kid, I was a first generation born American. My parents were born in the Dominican Republic. So as per the custom or what was going on with the families that immigrated here to this country, they always send the kids back to the Dominican Republic to visit their grandparents and their family because that's where they're from. So for me, what that meant was that my summers were spent in the Dominican Republic, which is
Lucky.
great. I mean, lucky, right? I'm not complaining about that, but it was a great opportunity, one, to get to know your family members.
Hmm.
Obviously, you are immersed in a different language and culture, so that's how I learned Spanish. It wasn't in school. It was going to the Dominican Republic and fending for myself. Nobody was there to translate for me. Like, I had to
Yep.
figure it out, which was great. Obviously, you have the love and care of your grandparents. But to get back to your original question, one of my fondest memories is my grandfather, even as he was getting older in the 60s, 70s, but when I would visit, he would absolutely love to go to his shed and hand grind different meats with different seasonings and just play around. Like, almost like a foodie now, experimenting
Yeah,
in the kitchen. That's what he was.
that's awesome.
And he would always take me to be part of it and let me, hand crank the hand grinder and put in the seasoning. And I'm getting in there with my hands and washing my hands afterwards. But it was really a part of the process. Obviously, he was a technical expert, understood it all really well, and I was just happy to be there.
That's awesome.
So that's part of like how I got into the company. Other things I can let you know behind the curtain a little bit. My grandfather and I would always watch wrestling together. He was a big fan, and then he got me into it. So that was something we shared. And then I remember as he got older, and as just a young kid, you don't necessarily want to do what your parents tell you to
Of course,
do, and you want
yeah,
to do your own thing. But
100%.
I'll always remember one conversation. I even bring it up to this day when speaking with family members. Is the only reason why I'm in the business is because my grandfather asked me to be, and he said it would be make him so happy because he saw I was a serious kid, but quiet. But he wanted to make sure that I definitely gave it a consideration and a thought. And that always stuck with me. So
That's
especially
awesome.
after his passing, it made it even more prevalent, and I wanted to succeed, and so I kind of went into the family business.
That's awesome. Well, he sounds like a great guy, and I'm sure you're making him very proud today.
Thank
So,
you.
congrats. So, tell me a little bit about how your roles have evolved there, right? You were sales manager and now obviously president.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Well, starting in the company, obviously you are a family member, so you're a known quantity, right? And let's be real. The expectation is you're only here because your parents put you here. That's what it is.
Yep.
Unless you come with this particular skill set that they know, like you're an engineer, you're this, you're that,
Hmm.
they're going to just judge you based upon your last name, which is natural. It's almost like human emotion. So I knew I had to earn my way. So how do I earn my way? I'm new, but I'm very educated at this point, right? I'm the higher level of education compared to my father, just because generationally the support and where you're
100%.
able to start. So I did the sales manager thing to start because in our sales department at the time was only one person like dedicated for that. Plus, let's say my father and anybody else, and he needed help. Right, he was the vice president at the time, but he needed help. We have a presentation for BJ's, but I'm double booked with Walmart. Oh my God, this is an
Yeah, I can one
opportunity
guy
that
do
we
it all.
can't
Yep.
miss. We can't do it all. So I took that presentation for Walmart, which was in a hotel in Westchester, like straight out of college. But obviously I was well versed in PowerPoint. I
Yep.
just did 4 years of PowerPoints. I could I could speak in public, and I wasn't afraid to do so or nervous.
Hmm.
And then to let you guys know something else that was really cool. At the time, I bought my girlfriend, who ended up being my wife.
Oh, that's awesome.
So she was the one like cutting the samples, and I'm here meeting with the vice president of Sam's Club, who's here in the Northeast, and we were invited, thankfully, because of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce.
Nice.
And I think they reached out to the Bronx Chamber, the Hispanic Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and they were looking for Hispanic companies because that was what their initiative was.
Hmm.
And if they were minority certified, that was a plus. That's something else that I started. I realized that a minority certification, which is a lengthy process, could open doors and
100%.
opportunities. It doesn't guarantee you anything, but it gets you noticed.
Hmm.
And if you prepare well for those moments, you'll succeed. So that's part of what I did. So that's how I evolved in the sales managing
Did you
thing.
and your wife get the deal done?
We did get the deal.
Nice,
We did
congrats.
get the deal done. So that was great, right? We did it together and then into the business. And then as things evolved, we had to change things electronically, or there was other forms to fill out, or you have to be a certain level to exchange data with us. Like this is technological based.
Yeah, for sure.
Smaller companies maybe don't have the bandwidth to do it
Mhm.
necessarily, right? But me, I was coming out of college. I was so focused on this, and that. And it's like whatever it was, I'll figure it out.
Yep.
And that's what I did. I really applied myself. So if there was like a prerequisite to do a business with a BJ's or a Walmart, I jumped right into it. Like, I'll figure this out. Give me a day. If I have questions, I'll ask, and then I can do it.
That's awesome.
So I never lost that confidence. I never lost the passion.
Yep.
And I was hungry.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing when you walk into the business is you want to prove yourself. So that was what I did right away, like sales managing, meeting with all the top customers, introducing new products, meeting potential new accounts, which ended up being like at the time for us, BJ's Wholesale Club, Costco Wholesales, the Sam's Club, which I mentioned, and plus others, smaller distributors. So that was kind of where I evolved from a sales manager. As I grew, I became a vice president, and I still did a lot of sales thing, but then I started to get involved in other aspects of the business. I was really big on improvement. Like I just can't stand still.
Yeah.
Because it just bothers me when things are the same. Not that they're not working. It's just I always think
How do
this
you make it
could be
better?
done better.
Yeah.
And I know I can figure it out. So
It's a
I
great
would just
skill set to have.
dive myself into the things. And not everything wins is a win or a loss, but at least I had like that mentality of I'm always looking for improvement. I don't care how big or small it is. So that helped me, obviously. It helped me, dictate corporate policy, make changes, but it came from more of a status of where I've earned the respect because I did certain things,
Yep.
and the company was seeing the fruits of my labor. So that's like the vice president. Obviously, to become president, our president had retired. I was the vice president in line. There was a conversation. I remember this was within the family, and this was, an open table discussion. It
Yep.
wasn't with tension or anything like that. But this was when I was the vice president, and it was like, who should be the next president? And I calmly said, "You're looking at him." With confidence. Like I do everything the president does now plus more.
Yep.
Like that's just, and then everyone at the table that was part of the business completely supported me. It wasn't
Awesome.
like, oh, I don't think he's ready. It's like, no, just so you know,
Yeah.
he does everything.
Yeah.
Um,
And you earned it.
and
You
I've
earned
never,
it
oh,
every
I've
step
earned
of
the
way.
time.
Yep.
But I also had the validation of my peers, which was important, right?
100%.
So that helped. So when I became president, it was like I hit the ground running. If anything, the velocity of change only increased because I had no barriers now. Like kind of no barriers. not that everything I do gets green lighted, but I had such a good vision and I was really in tune with like the issues and processes and problem solving, and I was getting better and I was analytical, and I didn't need to be an expert because I was knowledgeable enough, but I also had like a different mindset.
Yep.
And so that's what kind of helped me propel me to be president. And what really advanced, I guess, was my ability to just bring in emotional intelligence into the equation. I mean, I've done trimetrics assessments. I've had the whole company do assessments as far as what you are naturally and what you are when you have to adapt and what makes you uncomfortable, even if you don't say it. Like I really got into it, and it only helped us
That's awesome.
become a better, more dynamic company that's 55 years. So you think of it as old, but I think of us as a young startup. Like,
Yep.
that's why I want to run it. I want quick decision making. I only want to do analyze data if I feel like it's a really big decision and I need to take the time to analyze. But I also have the other side of being quickly and decisive.
Mhm.
And if I see an opportunity and it's great, I go for it. I don't even hesitate. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, we'll figure it out. So
Yeah.
I kind of have that, and I push that to the staff. So I also tell them that it's okay to make failures. You
Yep.
know, it's not about succeeding every single time. It's okay to fail. Let's just figure out why you failed,
Yeah.
and let's kind of get to the solution together. So don't think like you can't fail.
Yep.
So that really, lets the staff know to try new things. I think we can improve this, and kind of just creates this culture of learning that I want, of learning and continuous improvement.
Yeah, and evolution, right? Like
And evolution.
constantly growing. I'm a firm believer of mindset matters. So you could tell by how you're speaking that you're so passionate about the company, but also trying to your point, make it better and try to evolve and be able to be forward thinking too. So that's awesome
Yes,
to see.
absolutely.
So we talked a lot about your grandfather in the beginning, right? How do you balance honoring the family legacy and then obviously doing everything we're talking about now, pushing for innovation, trying to change the company for the better at the same time?
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes back to the company slogan, tradition of quality, right?
Mhm.
So when we make products, there's always has to be a certain level of quality, not only in the ingredients, but in the processing. There is no cutting corners. I mean, that was super important to my grandfathers, right?
Mhm.
So like the content of fat to protein, like there's certain like staples that do not get changed, and I don't even change them. So for me, that was always there. So when
Mhm.
we manufacture a product, it has to be a high quality, not only meat composition, but the technique, the processing, the hygiene, the sanitation, that has to be top level. I don't cut corners, and I never will, because that's
Yep.
just my grandfather would never. So that's why I kind of see it like that. when it comes to pushing innovation and technological advances and production advances, really it's about just becoming more educated within the market, trying to
Hmm.
identify trends, seeing what's out there, by competitors or other retailers, asking yourself, can we make that? Oh, I think we can, and then you adapt. Certain niches like low reduced sodium, vegan options. Like I want all those options
That's
because I
awesome.
want the entire market. I
Hmm.
don't just want what I did in the past. That's not good enough anymore.
Yep.
So I think like we always have to innovate. We always have to be creative. We have powerful brands. Let's leverage those brands. We have a catalog of other trademarks. Let's start using them so that we create variation within our own market.
Yep.
So it may seem like a lot of different competitors, but it's really me
That's awesome.
in different disguises, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what we go about it. And then we just look to do other things. We're going to do a frozen goods line, completely different. We do imports and exports now. There's other opportunities to kind of continue to grow the volume per every stop, right? And so that's kind of like what we're taking the company in. And we want to be we want the consumers to have just as much confidence as they do in Amazon. You
Yep.
order today, it's there in 3 hours, right? We want
That's
customers
awesome.
or retailers, you order our product, it's there the next day.
Yep.
Because that was one of the initiatives. Like I want next day deliveries.
Hmm.
That was the thing, and I didn't have all the answers, but we're gonna figure out how we're gonna get next day. So like little things like that, you put the right goals, you set the right key performance indicators, so you know if you're winning or not, because it's important. Are you winning or not? And then you get to there. So those are like one of the things that started small, but now we're like doubled the number from last year already, which is great.
Congrats.
Like
Yeah.
we're making improvements. We're like streamlining processes. We're getting better and better. So that's all those things are exciting to me. I'm a techie.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to when I saw the Terminator movie. I loved it. I didn't think of it as, I mean, obviously it's fiction, but for me in my mindset, I thought like,
Future.
what?
Yeah.
That's the future. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be on that wave.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for advancements in technology. I mean, we got a lot of robotics that we're implementing within the company, mostly because I'm such a driver.
Yeah.
I leverage AI. I mean, I've done training videos on ChatGPT for the staff to uptrain them, and I use it myself. So I love all that stuff. So I'm
That's
a big
awesome.
proponent of looking to leverage software, technologies, and the last quotient, the most important really is the people.
Yep.
I want to develop the people. I want to create a safe space. I want them to feel a part of a team.
Yep.
I need to be the leader for them. Sometimes it's about patting them on the back. Other times it's about supporting them.
Yep.
Other times it's just about listening to them because they had a tough day. And if you give them the 7 minutes to connect and listen to how their day is going, this could be completely personal, not professional.
Hmm.
They appreciate that.
Yeah. That's one of
And
the most
that's- and
important
that's one of the
pillars of
most
any
important.
organization.
Right. Is the ability to listen. And that's one of our norms. Listen to understand. Sometimes it's not about answering, it's just about listening. And helping your teammate out. And we're really big on that. That's the biggest cultural change that we've done in the last 5 years.
That's awesome. And I'm sure the team appreciates that. It
Yep.
sounds like you're doing a great job of combining, obviously, innovation, but also keeping, as you started the conversation, with the tradition intact, too, which is crucial, I'm sure, for
Right.
grandfather's legacy, but also for your customers.
Yes, absolutely.
So, what trends do you see in the meat industry that you're most excited about? I know we mentioned just probably a handful of them as we were kind of going through that. And how is Cibao going to take advantage of those in the years to come?
Yeah, well, we've mentioned a couple, so I'll just mention them again. Obviously, there's the reduced sodium. It's just
Mhm.
about the option. People are more health conscious, and I'm a healthy, fit guy, so I completely understand that. So I'm excited about that, right? Because we
Awesome.
just had some samples and they were amazing. So that'll be coming to market soon. We also have identified, I said, the vegan option, right? And the way I quantify that is very, very simple. I have a family member who grew up eating my product. They no longer eat that product because her and her husband made the decision for health reasons to go vegan only.
Okay.
My goal is to get her back. Because if I can get her back because she knows what it was like
Yep.
and give her the option
It
where it's
opens this
completely,
whole
it
market.
opens this
Yep.
whole market up. So that's it. It's that one test case. If I know I can get it good enough that she likes it because she remembers what the old one was, I'm golden. So that's a niche, but I think it's an important niche and people like options.
Yeah.
Other things that we've kind of identified, when I say I make a Hispanic product, they go Mexican, it's spicy. I'm like, no, we're not Mexican, or it's from Spain. It's like, no, we're not Spanish. But all those little differentiations between the culture of the
Sure.
Latino culture allow for opportunity.
Mhm.
And what we've discovered is that every country has their authentic recipes of meat products that they like, that they grew up with, that are authentic to them. So one of the things we've kind of done is instead of thinking ourselves as a Caribbean-based company, we want to hit all of the Latino markets
Mhm.
from Central America, South America to the Caribbean, even to Europe and Spain. So that's basically led our product development map. Let's start with these countries and really identifying what it is in those countries that we can make because we have the equipment. What we don't have is the exact formulation and the specs and the authenticity, but we can work on that in R&D. So that's one of the biggest changes we've done. We've really expanded our chorizo and longaniza line to be really different between the individual countries. And so we're doing different versions of those products. We have heat treated, which means you have to cook it at home, or we have a fully cooked option, which you can eat right as it's
Nice.
opening. So that alone probably gives us 35 new products.
It's great.
So that's a great part of the strategy, and that doesn't even take into account like a frozen line that I want to do of breakfast sausages, breakfast patties, frozen empanadas, all these other different things. So with those new products, I've identified the country, so it's about creating the trademarks. With the new line, it's like I have powerhouse brands. Let's just go right to the powerhouse and just do it well.
Yep.
Luckily for us, and luckily for me, I have a financial degree as a master's, financial administration, and a business admin as my graduate degree. I'm sorry, my undergraduate degree. My bachelor's is what I mean to say. So with that, I've always had like a good eye on preparing for the future, leveraging debt to equity, conservativeness, but also consistency. And so that allows us to have opportunities to invest in equipment, invest in new projects, do project charters for different things. So that's kind of where I see the market. The market is a more knowledgeable consumer, right, than it was 20 to 30 years ago. I mean, just like I was raised, I don't eat my product all the time. But, the generation prior probably ate it all the time. I still eat my product and my kids do, but I still want differentiation just because I've been exposed to so much. So really for us, it's about making sure that when people buy our products, that we have something for everybody.
Yep.
And whether it's at the deli, whether it's at the dairy, whether it's at the salami market or any other type of area of the supermarket where people go to buy, we just want to make sure we have products represented in all those areas.
You're everywhere the consumer is.
Exactly. And then they're going to trust the name. We do advertising and marketing all the time, very consistently. We've always been big like that. So that's kind of what we're kind of leveraging, really the loyalty of the consumer.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of where we are, is where we see the niches. And we kind of, what I like about the company now is that we're willing to adapt.
Yeah.
We're absolutely willing to adapt. It's not that we're so stuck in our ways. You buy our product because it's so good cooked just because we make it and that's it. No. I got to read the tea leaves. If things are changing, if there's a regulation on this, let's say I have too much of this ingredient that I need to eliminate. I'm always constantly thinking about we need to be able to adjust and adjust on the fly. But at least I know that I have the calmness to do it. I just never. One thing about me that I think the company has realized as I ascended to my presidency is that I really don't get emotional, happy or mad. I'm very, very professional, which to me means emotional patience.
Yep.
I just don't.
Good quality to have.
Don't let it really affect me, good or bad. And I think that's great because in times where you kind of feel the pressure, I don't really feel the pressure. I mean, I tell my staff, pressure makes diamonds. If you think pressure crushes you, then you're going to crumble. If you think pressure makes diamonds immensely, you're already optimistic about it. You're going to handle it. And that's how I am. And that's how I kind of handle things.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see that you obviously say the innovation, but now you're actually doing that, right? You're actually being innovative and coming out with all these different new lines and new ways to position to the marketplace too. So that's awesome.
Yep.
We talked a lot about making improvements and different changes. Looking back, has there been one small change you made that had a bigger impact as the outcome?
Yes, I think one really small change, right, was just an addition of a simple business communication software. It was basically, this is what I mean by us as a learning organization. It was a tip during COVID from somebody on our floor because their roommate worked for a Fortune 100 company and they just installed Slack. That literally what it was, Slack. They said, Heinz, I think you should look into Slack. I said, okay, no problem. Over the weekend, I saw a couple of videos, fell in love with the elimination of emails because that's their biggest pitch. We don't do emails, we do communication channels. You do the email, but you forget to include somebody and it's like a mess.
Yep.
We got it the next Monday, completely brought it on board, drove that thing through the company from the top down. We probably have now over 80-something users.
Nice.
And it was basically done because there was a communication gap between one facility and another, and there needed to be a lot of communication. But it was who has the time to do all these emails? So we needed communication channels where the right people were in the right spots to see the right information all at the same time. That alone was considered a minor change, but we are huge slackers in the business. I'm the king of that domain. But it was funny because I don't have the statistics, but I'm pretty positive. But we are one of the first minority-owned companies to really drive through Slack. This was in the middle of COVID. This was before it was bought by another Salesforce to become part of their platform. We were in there super early, and I love it.
Game changer.
And it was a game changer because it just increased the communication. It made reporting daily. There was no longer, one department doing a report at the end of the day. It's a file in a folder that never gets seen unless it's requested. It was literally posted every day. So, and 25 people saw it every day.
That's awesome.
Little things like that. Reporting-wise, communication-wise, made a huge difference. It allowed me to be more creative and humorous, right?
Yep.
I can come off as serious, but I'm people see me as really funny on Slack because I'm using all these GIFs. And it's a workplace, of course, but it's they like that I'm more open and communicable like that. So I think it's just helped, and then it kind of lends itself to the culture of like improving it, communication, listening to understand. I mean, it's great. We do Slack for everything: daily reports, monthly reports, project charters, new projects. We have a wine and cheese channel when we talk about when we
Nice.
meet once a month for wine and cheese. Like we do things like
Yeah.
that, so it's fun, and people love it, and I love it, and they know that to come work for the company, you have to be a Slacker. There's
Yep.
just no way around it because I love Slack, and there is no way around it. And I'm glad we were able to onboard everybody that I needed to, even
Yeah.
people that were
Quickly.
not so tech savvy. I mean, we got them trained. Either I got them trained, or sometimes it was talk to your kid. Like they'll
They'll
get
show
you
you how to
trained.
do it.
They'll show you how to do it. But people bought into it, and obviously they saw how active I am on it. So it's
Yep.
not like I just set it up and I walk away. Like I am there at all hours of the day, and I read almost every single message. And sometimes it'll just be me saying thank you.
Yep.
Right. But people see like, oh, Heinz.
Yeah,
like, I
it shows them
noticed-
that you noticed it and you're
I noticed
recognizing
it, and I
it. Yep.
recognize it. So that's like the one small change
Yep.
that had a huge impact because that completely changed the way we communicate within departments. I mean, it reduced company emails by 99%. It was huge.
It's awesome.
And it allowed people to just communicate faster. And it also made, certain channels are related to reporting, so it's accountability.
Mhm.
Why wasn't this report posted? Like when the
Yep.
expectation is it's there
Yeah.
every day. So that really helped and changed things, I think, for the better for the company.
How do you handle pressure in your own life, both personally and professionally?
All right, that's a great question. I one of my favorite taglines, by the way.
I love it. I'm gonna steal it.
For me, I guess so. It's personally and professionally, right?
Mhm.
So professionally, if I'm in a pressurized situation or what might be seen as stressful, again, I exhibit professionalism, which is emotional patience. That I cannot stress enough. I just don't even let my emotions get into it, and how I kind of hold my emotions off is that I immediately go into analytical mode. What is this person telling me? What does it mean? What's a plan that I can come up with right off the top of my head? But what's a better version of that plan if I gave it more time? So
Yep.
I start thinking about it, which allows my emotions, which holds my emotions at bay. How I kind of got that way is that I'm really, really disciplined. So, I wake up routinely, I don't know, between 4:30 and 5 a.m. I work for a certain amount of time. I always go work out for a certain amount of time. And I think that routine and discipline has always helped me just kind of take care of anything that comes my way because I always have my routine.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if I have a good day at work, doesn't matter if I have a bad day at work. I'm up at 4:30 working out and working no matter what.
Yep.
And that kind of discipline and routine is like my safe place
Mhm.
because it's consistent.
Yep.
It's very easy for me to kind of get into it, to progress on my day, to think of things. I'm a very big proponent of getting the correct amount of sleep. I think that people have a tendency to think that, oh, if I just stay up to do X, I'll be okay. But there's a diminishing rate of returns.
100%.
I am more of like, I have a bedtime. My kids go to bed. I go to bed almost right after them because it's like, I want to wake up at 4. Like I
Yep.
got things to do and I have my day kind of programmed like that. So that's kind of how I handle pressure. I have a really good discipline and routine that I've done for years. I mean, this goes back to when I did, college football, right? You had to be up, you had to practice, you had to do this.
Yep.
So that taught me a lot about routine and that really helps me now. And I think the thing about dealing with pressure or stress is that I just don't let it affect me. I tell myself in my little voice inside my head, like at the end of the day, I don't care. And I just as almost like a supporting
Yeah.
system. And from that perspective, it just immediately calms me down. Like, let me just analyze the situation.
Yep.
We'll get through this. Like, I don't have to let it pressure me. What for? Like, life is more important than this particular problem. Doesn't really matter how
100%.
big the problem. I mean, I have a wife, I have a family, I have
Yep.
kids. So that all puts things in a different perspective. So things like that is kind of how I handle it. I feel like my mindset is in the right place.
Mhm.
I feel like my priorities are in the right place. I can tell you right now, I will never miss one of my kids' games. Practice, yes, because I travel, I do things. I will never miss one of my kids' games. It's such a big priority for me because being a father and a husband was the most important thing in my life. So I have that in my mindset. So when other situations come up that don't affect my wife or my kids' health and safety, I can handle it.
Yeah.
That's how I think. And that's why things don't really get to me.
That's a great mindset to have.
Thank
We
you.
talked a lot earlier about the importance of your team, right, and the employees that are part of the company. How have you done different initiatives really fostering employee collaboration, and how have you done that effectively?
Well, we've done it by creating workshops, right, to educate the employees. I mean, I use the word emotional intelligence. That was a workshop with, 18 different people. I kind of cascaded that through the department. So that brings us all together. Those are intense, right?
Yep.
Those are like over 2 days,
100%.
8 hours a day. But you learn a lot, not only about
Yep.
yourself, but about your team. Things that I've started in my presidency, we started to do learning workshops where I got into contact with these providers that can provide once a quarter these different things about, leading without proper authority and influencing others, task and time prioritization. So those are one ways where I kind of the workforce sees me intentionally trying to develop them
Mhm.
so that they see that. We also like to do, and I mentioned this, Cibao cheese and wine, right? We
Yep.
have that once a month. It's
Yeah.
actually really,
Have the fun.
we
Yeah.
have the fun with it.
Yeah.
We do, employee appreciation days. Just to give another example, we had a construction project going on in our building. So I decided, this was my decision, nobody told me to do it. Do you know what? Since the workforce that's in my production and packaging room are the most affected by this phase 1 of construction, every Friday we are going to have a food truck for them. And I paid for it because I knew
That's awesome.
I needed them to be comfortable. Because if they're not uncomfortable, they're not being efficient for me.
Yep.
So let me get them a little bit of comfort because it's going to be just a little bit uncomfortable for everyone anyway.
Yeah.
Well, let me give them something else to look forward to kind of get through it. So things like that. I mean, we're big into speaking and having meetings. I like weekly check-ins. I do biweekly meetings with my direct reports. I kind of fostered that and cascaded that throughout the departments. Like, you should be meeting with your supervisors at least once a week on a check-in, maybe 2 weeks more formally, but just to keep that rhythm. I call it the rhythm of the business, which I got from a colleague of mine, a peer. But it's like the rhythm of the business should be we're constantly meeting just to make sure everyone's good, that we're addressing the issues, especially the most critical issues. We're assessing, our goals. Are we hitting them? Are we not hitting them? And obviously we're putting out and we're solving any issues, but we're solving it together.
Yep.
So that's big for our business and kind of just handling that as a team.
That's awesome. That's a great outlook on collaboration. Well, I'm sure there's many lessons you've learned. Is there one that really stands out as the most important lesson you learned in your leadership position?
Yes. And I've said this, but it bears mentioning again. One of the biggest things I learned about being a leader is that you have to have empathy. And I didn't always have empathy. I was very data driven, black and white, and this and that. But COVID opened up a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
We were affected. We closed because the workforce did not show up on a Monday. And my first reaction was one of the only times I was unprofessional. I was angry. I was upset.
Yep.
And I could be truthful here. Why was I angry? I was upset because I thought they were letting me down. What wasn't I doing? I was putting myself in their shoes and really understanding their fears and concerns. And I learned that. And so kind of in my leadership, I really do, and this is part of one of our employee norms, which I mentioned, I listen to understand.
Yep.
I have to build empathy in certain situations, even if that's not my strong suit, and it's not, but I am working diligently on it because I know it's a weakness and I need it to be more than a weakness. I need it to be more competent than that.
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing. It's really having empathy. That doesn't mean that my decisions change because it's a tough conversation. It's just about I'm trying to just understand the person a little better, because sometimes if you have the right level of empathy, you can adjust the decision based on some new information, but it's new information to you, but it's information that you're okay with, right? So that's why it's important to listen, to understand what the issues are, what the concerns are, allow the other person to talk. So I think that's the biggest thing about leadership.
That's awesome. Well, I can tell from our dialogue today, you definitely include empathy in all your leadership skill sets that you've had.
I definitely am conscious of it, and I definitely make it 100%. A point.
So we said this earlier, reaching 55 years in business is a remarkable accomplishment. What special plans do you have to continue to celebrate significant milestones for Cibao Meats?
Well, this one specifically, we're having a huge party.
Nice.
We did it every year in the beginning because, first year, second year, third year, but it got to the point, I want to say around the 25th or 30th, where we did it every 5 years. Mostly because it's like such a large event and the preparation and planning. So we are going to have it in New Jersey. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful event. We've been working hard since the 50th, really, because obviously COVID happened. We ended up locking the location right away.
Oh, man.
So we were like very gratuitous in that mindset. Like, let's lock it up.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a huge party, friends, family, vendors, customers.
That's awesome.
Both new and, ones that were with us before. So that's going to be, the event for this year. And kind of what we do in the future is we have things internally. We always have an employee appreciation during the summer. We have like an employee holiday party, which is just the staff. We look to do that. And we're very consistent. That's a yearly thing.
That's awesome.
So those are the things that we do to kind of commemorate another year successful. And we make it a very casual type of event. It's not formal with the employees or anything like that. It's just something, we just want it to be nice. We want them to enjoy it. We give away raffles. We give away, we've done plane tickets to their country of choice. We've done hotels. We've done Yankee tickets. We've done, I don't know how many big screen televisions. It got to the point where they don't even want it anymore. Because it's like, where is it going to go? But we try to do different things.
That's great.
And we try to give back and recognize. I think it's about recognition. Really it is. And that's what's important to us. We want to recognize all the hard work of everyone and what they've been contributing to the success of the company. And we also like to highlight, some of the best workers of Cibao, the people that have taken on more, that have done leadership, have looked to be trained. And it's a great opportunity to kind of let them know that we know what's going on and we appreciate that everything that they've done for us. And then reiterate little old standing company truths like, hey, I have an open door policy. Like, if you want to talk to me, just come in at any time. My door's open to you. Just knock. If I'm busy, I will get back to
Yep.
you, and we'll make the time. So that's like always something that we tell our employees, and they know that. Some of my favorite moments are kind of just walking the halls and people see me and they're like, "Oh my God, that's the president!" And I'm like, "Hey, did you see the Yankee game yesterday?" And I get into it because I like sports, and so we get into that.
Yeah.
So I kind of like relating to the employees. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is I did it yesterday. I walked into the packaging room. We have this new robot. It's like kicking butt. It's doing its thing,
That's awesome.
and they're preparing the next batch of my product to be fed into the robot. I literally just start standing there and I start feeding this machine myself, and people are like, "This is the president." And I'm just there for 30 minutes, and I'm just, I want to see what this is like. And because I want to, one, I want to examine the robot. Two, I want to be on the floor. And I always had the mindset of be able to roll up your sleeves at any time.
100%.
Because my grandfather would have totally been like that. Like
You're in the
without a doubt.
trenches with them.
In the
Yep.
trenches. Like nothing is too big for you. Don't ever think
100%.
like you can't do this work. Like this is all possible. So they see that. So those are things that I do. And I do, like I'll random walks and like, why is the president here? Because I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Like I taught myself how to be a forklift operator, high-low operator, because at the time nobody was there, and I kind of took it from my own spin, and now I could do it. So I learn. I try to learn as much as I can, and as I said, I'm fascinated by technology, like HMI panels, digitization,
Yep.
remote starts and stops, and motor control centers. I know I'm getting a little bit technical, but I love all that stuff.
Yeah. And allows you to know every aspect of the business.
Yeah, and it really ingrains me in every aspect of the business, which I find exciting. And one thing that the staff knows, I thrive in chaos. I have to have things constantly in motion changing. I cannot stand still. And I consider myself like a force agent, like a force multiplier. Like I need situations, I need projects, and that drives me because that's fun. I think of it as fun because at the end I know I'm going to succeed. That just goes back to the confidence that I have in myself and in my staff. So that's one thing about me that you'll learn working for us is like it's a chaotic environment, but I know where I'm going type
That's
of thing.
great.
So you can rely on me, but trust me, it's going to be a little chaotic. But that's what I like.
That's awesome. Well, from sales manager to president now, what's next for you? What are your future aspirations?
It's a great question. My future aspirations are continuing building the company and doing everything that I kind of mentioned with the new products and identifying niches. Obviously, we own our own real estate, both in our current iteration and previous iteration. So I'm going to look to develop that and develop what that means. And, it's tough because I'm still ingrained in improving the business. So I don't see anything else right now besides maybe the real estate thing because that's going to be its own management thing. And then I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up being just more of a leader and developing the team and supporting the team.
That's awesome.
Eventually, that means is that the company runs by itself now. But I want it even more and more and more and more to be autonomous. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to look for new projects, right? Because my life is simplified in a sense because I have the people in the team to do the day-to-day, week-to-week, and they have the rhythm of the business.
And
Yep. What's going to happen is I'm going to look for other companies to either acquire or merge with. That's what's going to happen because I'm going to be bored of this iteration of the company, and I kind of want to level up. And then, part of my evolution is my education. So I started reading again more consistently in my 30s. A lot of business books, autobiographies. I still like my fiction. I probably cycle 3 to 5 books at a time. Some audio, some reading. But some of the things I've learned is, this is a great book for me, was 10x is simpler than 2x, which means if you really focus on growing 10 times, what you'll realize is you will be doing less because you're focusing on projects that are so large in scale that you will look to eliminate things that are in your, day-to-day routine that other people can do if just properly trained and trusted.
Yep.
Which allows for more time and bandwidth to tackle the huge projects, the huge things of change. So I've kind of learned that I really like it because it technically simplifies your life once you read the book. And that's kind of like where I see myself tackling really big things like that, and it keeps me exciting. And again, robotics and tech. I love anything robotics and tech. Tesla released a robot that works in your house. I want one. Like I told my wife, I said, we're gonna get one. And she wasn't as keen on it as I was, but I was keen.
Soon enough.
Soon enough. We're gonna get it. But like things like that. So that's kind of where I see myself. And then, helping support my staff, my family, if they are into the business, just be a guiding light for them, a steady hand, because that's something that will always be there. And obviously just continue to either grow or network and level up relationships and opportunities.
Well, I'm excited to see what's next.
Absolutely.
I always love asking every single guest that comes in. For anyone tuning in that's just starting out in the industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, just starting out in the industry, I would say what advice I would give to you is to just be patient. Right? Be ready to put in the hard work and the hours because you do have to do that to learn certain aspects of the business. Don't rush into things. Really take the time to learn, the critical path of what you need to do to be successful. Or like if you're making my product, there is absolutely a governmental supervision component about it, and your paperwork and your guidelines better be up to par. So there is no cutting that corner. Learn that early.
Yep.
Be someone that people can trust, right? Because
Mhm.
I think that goes a long
Super
way into the
important.
market.
Yep.
If there's an issue, be accountable. Like
Mhm.
if even if you make a mistake, be accountable. People like that. So that's would be my advice to kind of people kind of getting into the industry, and that I think it also another important thing to know is define what you want to do with your product to mean to people and what type of product you want. That's important. So that's a business plan, marketing plan. So I think you just have to take the time, but anybody can potentially do anything that they want to do. And what I've learned is not necessarily that you need to be, because I'm not my grandfather, right? I'm not
Yep.
I'm not this classically trained butcher. What I am is something different.
Mhm.
What I am is super driven, competitive, empathetic, supportive of my team. I look to solve people's problems. That's kind of what it is being a good leader. People want to be able to depend on you to solve their problems. So that's like the evolution of the company. My grandfather was the butcher in the shop,
Mhm.
grinding, stuffing. My father was more business savvy, started to do more marketing, trademark, and then I'm like the next level of
Yeah,
that.
the next generation. Yep.
So that's kind of what I've done, and that's kind of how you kind of get into the business. You just got to make sure you know what you want to do, understand the regulations that are required because those are not going away, and you
Mhm.
have to abide by them. And it's important that you are very detailed and thorough in certain aspects of the business, but also have the ability to kind of read the tea leaves and see what customers really want to make sure you're not doing a product that's outdated or no longer
Mhm.
wanted.
Yep.
So that's important to you stay up to date with industry information and the consumers especially.
Awesome. Well, we covered a lot. Is there anything you feel that we might have missed that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I talked about the family a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what puts everything in perspective. The reason why I'm so driven is that I absolutely prioritize my kids and my wife and being present in their moments. I don't want to be seen as the dad that was always working, right? I want to
Mhm.
be present. And I'm really good with that. And so, I mean, hey, listen, am I perfect? No. Is there times where I'm working when I shouldn't? Sure. But then all it takes is my little 9-year-old daughter to say, "Hey, Daddy, I think you're working too much." I say, "Honey, I think you're right. Computer down. What do you want to do?" And so I'm really attuned with that
That's great.
because I want my kids to know that Dad is
Yeah.
there when I want them. So
100%.
that's definitely the thing to know about me. Family over everything.
Well, for any of our listeners that are tuning in that want to learn more about Cibao Meats, what should they do?
Well, a great resource is our website, cibaomeat.com. We just refurbished that. We also have YouTube channels which shows a lot of our new products and
Awesome.
videos. I've heard there's a commercial of me from 35 years ago still up there that I can't get down, but it's okay. It's like part of the
Once
evolution
it's
of
out on the
company.
web, no turning
Yeah,
back.
there's no turning back. So those are great resources to learn. Obviously, if anybody, I know the industry leads to different types of events. So, for example, the robotics company that I'm working with, that I collaborated with, is because we are only the third robot in the country that uses 3D vision and AI.
Wow.
Which is a direct collaboration between me and a very specific robotics company and my willingness to be a beta site for them because I wanted them to solve my problem.
It's great.
So that is something that you might see in the tech journal because they did a whole spread and I allowed them to use pictures of the robot that they did for me. So that's like a way where you might see me and not realize it because I am so forward thinking and I want to improve and I love automation and I like robotics. So that's one way besides our website, the YouTube channel, Instagram, all those sorts of things that gets you, some basic information of the different products that we do and the different influencers that we work with and things like that.
Awesome. Well, Heinz, thank you so much for coming in. I thoroughly enjoyed learning more about yourself, your tradition, the family, the company, and really your mindset and leadership style. So thank you so much for sharing with our listeners today.
Oh, thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad. I hope, I said one thing that somebody retains. I mean, my biggest thing would be emotional intelligence. It's like a huge buzzword in the last 10 years. It's definitely for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to be a leader or something like that, this is absolutely something that you should, involve yourself in, either read about or take a course about. I think it's eye-opening.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you, everybody, for listening today, and tune in for next week's edition of CEOs You Should Know.